Okay, this is just a quick video of trying to estimate the ZR1 C8 Nurburgring time. I know a lot of people have tried to compare Virginia International Raceway times for different vehicles um, to their Nurburgring times to try to get an estimate of how fast the ZR1 C8 can actually go around the Nurburgring. Well, that method is okay, as in it would give you some broad estimate, some broad range. But in order to narrow that range down, I've kind of figured out, you can use algebra to get a narrower estimate. So with algebra, um, what you can do is you can compare different factors from the C7 ZR1 and the C7 Z06. Basically, you can split it up into a suspension and handling factor, and then a drivetrain that's like horsepower, boost, gearing, aerodynamics, plus whatever factor. So you have those two meta factors, and with that, looking at the C7's time, we can do one thing that just trying to compare individual cars' VIR times to Nurburgring times. We'll be able to do more. So with the Z06, the C7, and the ZR1, they're basically the same car, basically on the same suspension. Not quite, but basically on the same suspension. There's a little bit of difference, I think, in the springs that are used, and the stiffness, but that's relatively minor and can be adjusted. It's very similar to the difference in the C8 ZR1 and the C8 Z06. So with that being said, we know they're on roughly the same suspension, the C7 Z06 and C7 ZR1. So if we do know that, um, then the only factors left to make a difference are those drivetrain type of boost, gearing, aerodynamics slash whatever factors, the other set of factors. Um, when you look at the C7's VIR time, and you compare it to the C7 ZR1's VIR time, it turns out that the ZR1 could do approximately the VIR circuit in 97.5% of the Z06's time. Okay, and it just happens to turn out that the the C7 ZR1 does the Nurburgring in 97.69% of the C7 Z06's Nurburgring time. So, so given that those two factors, or those two estimates, are so close and symmetric, what it's actually suggesting, okay, through the math, is that the power, and this is very important, is that the drivetrain, which includes like the power component, the boost, gearing, braking, whatever, aerodynamics, all of those other factors aside from suspension slash handling, have the same, or count as much on the Nurburgring as they do on VIR. Those other factors are relatively just as important and almost identical, 97.69% versus 97.5% on the VIR. They're almost identical in how important those other factors are. So what that's suggesting is that with the C8, if the C8 Z06 and C8 ZR1, if we make the assumption that their suspensions are roughly the same, much like they were in the C7, it's a very fair assumption. It's a very like, you can be confident in that assumption. Their suspensions aren't too much different. Rather, they're essentially on the same, just like in the C7. Then what you can do is you can assume that the proportional difference between the times the C8 Z06 and ZR1 have on the VIR, that should be consistent on the Nurburgring. So it turns out when you do the math, and I'm showing here, um, the C8 ZR1, based off of the time advantage that it has on the VIR, which I believe it's 2 minutes 32 versus 2 minutes 38 in the C8 Z06. That difference, if you use a percent, if you assume that that same percentage of difference would hold on the Nurburgring, then you come up with a time of 6 minutes and 53 seconds for the C8 ZR1. Now that's assuming that there is, a good driver or whatever. It may be, a little faster than that. I can see maybe 647 maybe to 653. It could be in the high 640s to low 650. So I really think that it's really this C8 ZR1 is on par with the Mustang GTD, and so I mean I think that's a really good time. Anything that's sub 7 minutes is a great time. But I see all these estimates where they say the ZR1 C8 is going to do like 630, even less, or even high 630s, whatever. That's seems a little bit too optimistic. And I know Jim Merrill, the engineer, came out and said that the C8 ZR1 could do 620s or whatever, 628. I mean, obviously he knows that's not going to happen. And the reason for that is from what I believe is just so GM can kind of like hype the car out and encourage sales, and that's the reason for that. Just kind of hyping it out. But again, I think the 653, even high 640s to 650, I think that's an excellent time. It's definitely a sub 7 minute car, but just using that method, I have a lot of confidence in this method. Because again, looking at the C7 Z06 and ZR1 around the VIR and Nurburgring kind of show is that the power advantage, which we're expecting on the ZR1, whatever advantage it has in terms of whatever other factors, is going to be proportional on the Nurburgring to what it is on the VIR. So that proportionality is really important. You can't just get that just by comparing a bunch of other cars Nurburgring times to VIR times. You can't do that. It does come up with a broad range, but you don't know, because you don't know how much the power factor actually makes a difference on the Nurburgring or the other factors, power, drivetrain, braking, boost, gearing, aerodynamics, whatever, because you don't know in the C8 in particular how much difference that's going to make. Your estimate is just really broad. So with this way that I've used it, just by determining that the VIR and Nurburgring are such good proxies in terms of performance, the VIR and Nurburgring, in terms of the drivetrain component, that component, drivetrain power, boost, whatever, braking, aerodynamics, that component makes just as much of a difference on the Nurb as it does on the VIR. So knowing that, I think that this estimate is a better estimate. So 6 minutes and 53 seconds. And so I think they're really GM's really just trying to beat the Mustang's time. And I would be happy with that, actually. I think that would be great. But yeah, 630s, whatever, that's kind of unrealistic. And anyways, that was what the video was about. And thank you.